Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Superhero Rewind Commentary Project. It's me, Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my sidekick, Austin the Day Ghost.
It's a me as well.
And on tonight's program, we're going to watch Constantine from 2005. This was selected by my son Jason, who was with us last week for the return of Captain Invincible, and we let him pick any movie on the whole list he wanted to, and he picked Constantine. Why? I couldn't tell you.
Oh, just like completely roasting him right out the gate.
Yeah, well, he couldn't explain it to me either. He didn't remember much about this movie. He watched it with us tonight, and I was like, Jason, is that just a movie like you remember finally? You really like? He's like, I couldn't remember if I liked that or not. I just saw it on the list.
Just a thing you do.
He had no real, exciting or insightful reason for choosing it. I guess he was just like, that's the thing they haven't done yet, and it's different from Return of Captain Invincible. Or maybe he just really likes Keanu Reeves. Yeah, which he does, because Jason's a gigantic John Wick fan.
Yeah, exactly. It's John Constantine.
Well, that's kind of what this watch is like, really. I had a little bit of a... not gigantically different viewing. Like, I don't think my feelings and criticisms about this movie have changed all that much, Austin. Like, I've really spoken my piece on this, but it's the Rewind Commentary Project. We're going back and doing new commentaries for every single superhero movie, even ones I've talked ad nauseum about. So I will keep this interesting and fresh as much as possible. Austin's never spoken on this movie, so you'll get a fresh perspective there. But one thing that was a little bit... Well, two things were different going back to this now. One is I have seen and this is now like 10 years old, holy crap, the NBC Constantine TV series, which is a lot closer, of course, to the Hellblazer comics, and that gave me a couple of new thoughts. And also, this felt to me now like a midpoint in Keanu Reeves' action acting between The Matrix and John Wick. This felt like kind of a weird bridging movie between those two things, even though John Wick happens quite a bit later than this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
I was seeing a little bit of the seeds of that performance, just because he is maybe in some ways a little bit less of an asshole in that movie than he is in this, because we make such a big deal out of he's just a mean, jaded guy, and he's got a lot less of that as Neo.
Well, I think a lot of it is just that he does The Matrix and Speed, and there's still a little bit of like that Bill and Ted in him. Like, you can still see that's where he came from.
Yeah, and he's lost that by this point, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Or are you saying he hasn't?
No, I'm saying like this is part of that like graduation to like where he's fully removed, because we kind of think of it as like there's like the two sides to Keanu Reeves, the Bill and Ted side and like the John Wick action side.
Yeah, and there's maybe a transition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a couple movies that like get him there.
Yeah, and this is one of the big ones, I think.
Yeah,
where
yeah, because like the Matrix, you still have like whoa and stuff like that. Like, there's still a little bit of it in him.
And he plays Neo more or less. I know you haven't seen the sequels, but more or less the same through those three movies. And this is immediately after Revolutions.
Oh, okay, I wasn't sure where exactly it lined up with that.
He might do a movie in between, I forget, but I think this is the next big kind of action piece like that. And it goes without saying this is massively inspired by The Matrix, but I gotta be honest with you, more than I ever really appreciated before. Like, I was noticing stuff that I either hadn't picked up or had forgotten about, where I'm like, oh, this really is just really super loosely adapting John Constantine from the comics through the lens of The Matrix.
Mm-hmm. And retroactively, maybe John Wick.
And I'll talk about all the ways in which it is just The Matrix, but with an occult, kind of hell bent, which is one of the things that's fun about it to me, because I love Keanu Reeves in those movies, and The Matrix is kind of my favorite movie. But it's... And I was not familiar with this character at all. when I first saw this movie, so I had no dog in that fight. So if you're a fan of the Hellblazer comics, that's probably irritating and overtly commercial and kind of the obvious, or maybe an obvious thing to do in order to be accessible to a wider audience. And it kind of worked. It's hard to say if, because I mean, it made money. It's hard to say if something a little bit straighter from the comics that took the risk to let Constantine be even a lot more cynical and jaded than he is here, and to have the more moral ambiguity and the super dark backstory that he has in the comics. You got to wonder how well that would have sold compared to what we had here, given that both movies would be rated R.
Mm-hmm.
One of them would have earned the rated R.
That's true. I actually forgot that this is rated R.
We'll talk about it. Yeah, it's preposterous. This is rated R, and I
guess that's another place where it's like The Matrix. I also forget that The Matrix is R.
Yeah, to the point where I've let most of my kids, or not most of my kids, my two eldest kids see that movie, and at the age of like between 7 and 10, like The Matrix is a pretty tame R, especially for kids that you think can handle that kind of thing, because every kid is different. This is even less understandably R than The Matrix to me. I feel like this is even a softer R than that is.
See, I feel like I could show a little kid The Matrix, and I don't know about this just because of the horror imagery.
Yeah, I might be wrong about that. Maybe it's just because this is a little bit more absurd than The Matrix in my mind.
Mm-hmm. No, that's fair.
There's a little bit more, kind of cartooniness.
Like, this would probably scare a kid, while The Matrix, besides, like, that mouth scene, I guess, they're probably going to be fine.
But if either of these movies came out in the late 80s, early 90s, there would have been a chance of a Saturday morning cartoon for children.
And they would have had a crossover, because they would have been on around the same time.
Absolutely. Now I want that.
Yeah.
Can you actually? I had this thought while I was watching it. I would love to write some sort of goofy fan fiction. I'll never do this with Neo and Constantine and John Wick. I feel like there's something really fun to do.
It would be like
with those three characters.
So you're the one? Yeah. And then they go about their day.
Yeah. No, he'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
This is an early genesis for that whole thing, too. That I did not remember. Jason was cracking up real hard, because there are a couple of John Wicky yas in this movie. It's great. Before we get started
I'm
here...
thinking I'm putting you back to hell.
Teddy put in a $10 super chat. I want to read this before we get started. He says, I hate demons. Man, they constantly tell me that my mother does bad stuff in hell and then puke on me.
That is true. And then Teddy said, great reference, Teddy. And then Teddy said, thanks, Teddy.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
When people write when people write very lengthy super chats, it's difficult to get them on the screen. Anyway,
so many words in your super chats.
All right, if you want to watch it with us, we encourage you to do that if you can. Get your DVD or Blu-ray out, however you're going to watch it. Put it to timestamp 0. This movie is not currently streaming on a service that I found.
That's weird. So it's not on Max?
Well, after Zaslav, lots of things got pulled off of Max. It might have been there at one time, I'm not sure. You'd think this would be one of those movies that bounces around at the very least, but I didn't see it anywhere. But it is available on Prime if you want to rent it for $4. And if you're watching this after the fact, it's not an expensive movie to get physically, and there is a 4K and a Steelbook coming out just next month. I want to say the reason Jason picked this is 20th anniversary, but I don't think he thought of that either. Nor did I. This was not on my radar for big anniversary, so it is cool that we happen to be doing it right now. And I think this was a February release, which means we're doing it not too far away from the month that the movie actually came out.
Perfect. And if you don't want to rent it, it is available on Internet Archive.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's just available, yeah. It's on Crave here, but only in French. And I didn't know that until I started watching it, and I got, like, the initial quotation.
That is
And I was
very
like, oh,
bizarre. Yeah, February 18 this came out, and it was pushed back from, I think, an October date, which would have made sense
yeah,
from the previous
that's
year.
a little unfortunate, but oh well.
Yeah, and you got to wonder if it would have made more money then, because it did okay. And it's kind of interesting that it did as well as it did in February, because that tends to be thought of as kind of as kind of a death nail month.
hmm Yeah, I'm actually surprised it did well. I always assumed this bombed, and that's why it didn't get a sequel, and that it was weird that we were talking about making a sequel now.
No, it very nearly got a sequel a couple times. That's very much a development hell sort of sequel.
Mm.
The first serious talk about that is in like 2011,
Oh, okay.
but its budget was somewhere between 70 and 100, and it did 230, so it at least made its money back.
Yeah, it did like just well enough to be able to talk about that.
Yeah, so it didn't do huge guns or anything,
Mhm.
but being kind of a cult classic sort of thing now, at least the people that made it talk about it that way. I know there's a lot of people that still enjoy this movie. I think it probably fits in that category. There's maybe enough of an audience now for a legacy sequel potentially, although I wouldn't expect. First of all, you've got to make that cheap enough if you're going to put it in the theater.
Mhm.
Otherwise, that should probably be like a max release.
Yeah, that's probably gonna have like a John Wick budget.
Mm-hmm. And that's a big special effects kind of thing.
hmm
Robert put in a $2 super chat and just says, "It's Constantine." Yeah, we better get a move on here.
Yeah, that's my favorite line in the movie, though. So I'm glad we got it in there.
Yeah, it was inevitable though. You knew somebody was going to say that. It's everybody's favorite line.
Yeah, where he goes, "Yeah, I'm thinking it's Constantine."
All right, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. Once again, timestamp zero. Sorry, I'm moving Austin's box around. Timestamp zero, and here we go. I'm excited to hear Austin talk about this because we've never really had a discussion about this movie.
hmm
Everybody, please press play right now. So, Austin, you saw this the first time, what, last year?
Yeah, was it last year? It was either last year or the year before. I can't remember.
I couldn't remember if you watched it for the top 100 or not.
I didn't. It was one where I was like, I don't remember it well enough. I should probably give it a rewatch.
Okay.
That was like I had stuff like that like on the kind of back burner where it's like if I have enough time, I'll get to that.
Sure.
But I was more so focusing on watching movies I hadn't seen.
Stuff you'd never seen.
Yeah, and the first time I watched it, I was like, "This is good," but it didn't really leave like any really lasting impression on me. And rewatching it today, I think I liked it a lot more than I did the first time. I thought it was quite good.
Oh, interesting. I thought you were going to go the other way. I thought you were going to say, oh, all the seams are showing now. I don't care for this at all.
Oh, no.
I really enjoy how over the top all the mythology is, and that's a thing I think you could really build on in a sequel. The big thing, just getting right into it, that I would love to see explored is, and this is a pretty convoluted story, and if you, I could see this handled really terribly, but if you're thoughtful about it, Austin, I think it would be cool to get into what seem like massive contradictions in the God and devil relationship. Like, I'd love to know how exactly God operates and what his motivations are, and like why he sometimes in this seems like he is, like Constantine says, a kid with a magnifying glass with ants, with an ant farm, and or he says he's a kid with an ant farm, I guess is what he says, and why sometimes he seems to really care about humanity and his creations and absolution and wants everyone to go to heaven, but he just has these pesky rules for no reason we fully understand, which is honestly just the Bible, in the first place. But this, taking those ideas and I don't mean to step on anybody that believes what they believe, but like takes what this movie has kind of the attitude of its mythology and literalizes it. I can't decide how much of it is these things that feel like confusing contradictions in the actual biblical source material, and how much of it is they're kind of throwing their hands in the air and they just haven't decided how it all works. And it's a little McFarlane-y in that way.
Yeah, to a degree, it is definitely playing on mythology rules, which are, loose.
Because what Spawn does, and naturally I'm going immediately to Spawn, is it says God and Satan are neither one of them really good or really evil. They're both like really morally ambiguous, and they're both just vying for control of humanity. They both just want more souls than the other one, and this kind of plays it that way. But then you get the sense at the end that there is a real honest like good versus evil thing happening with the big sacrifice at the end, which I'm getting ahead of myself when I complain about this again. But the sacrifice play does seem to contradict the entire like set of rules for how you get to heaven in the first place, which is the standard John 3:16. It's not about works righteousness. It's about like just asking for forgiveness and believing. And then you get to the end, and he really does just do a thing that allows him to not go to hell.
Tilda Swinton does say like, you gotta sacrifice yourself, John. You do everything for yourself.
But there is a there is kind of a difference there, right? Where we're like yeah she says all the good things he's doing are just selfish and just for himself, but it really does seem like it's supposed to be, if you just believe and ask for forgiveness, that's what gets you to heaven. Because it's talked about that way through the entire movie, and so he's trying to find this loophole, and it seems like she's saying and of course, she's not a super reliable source of information, but it seems like what she's saying is you have to not make it about things you do at all, and the big lesson he's supposed to learn is humility. And I don't know that, like, maybe you could argue that's what it really is by the end, that the sacrifice just means that he has found humility, but it does feel like a works thing. But then at some point I'm also just arguing the actual mythology as presented in the Bible also.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about that stuff, so like I also have to plead ignorance on it. But sure. I just took away that it was, he's entirely motivated by I don't want to go to hell, so he's not doing the stuff for the right reasons. So the fact that like he ultimately does do it for the right reason at the end is what switches it over, as opposed to like just having to believe or whatever is what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I think I would buy it more. I love the shot with the cigarette. I think I would buy it a little more if we didn't go all the way with it, where he starts to actually rise to heaven at the end. If it just kept him from going to hell, and then he was in maybe some sort of a purgatory, or he just like woke up then, I think I'd be more okay with it.
But then we lose the greatest shot in this entire film, which is him slowly rising to heaven while he flips off Satan.
Well, anyway, I got way ahead of myself and just started talking about the ending right away.
Yeah, no, you're all good. One thing I wanted to ask you about, and Jareth actually asked you about it in the chat as well, which is, do you appreciate some of the stuff more now after having seen The Exorcist?
I gotta be honest with you, I think I kind of like it a little less after that.
I mean, that's also fair. Because it just feels like Diet The Exorcist?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. I mean, I have that with like all possession things, so it's like this I think is still on like the upper end of that, so it's like
It is. There's
I
things
still
about
have
it that
that.
watch a little TV to me.
Oh sure.
But I don't think the exorcism stuff is bad in this by any stretch.
Hmm. I
I
also think some of the effects are a little wonky, but not
Yes.
in like a in a way where I'm more forgiving of it, I think, than I am with other stuff.
Yeah, it's also 20 years old, and
No,
there
exactly.
there are there are some things that are maybe a little bit too ambitious even for this time. Um, but one thing I did always think was really inventive is the way the mirror thing is handled.
Yeah, that is a really cool idea.
It's a cool shot. I like the demon vanity idea.
Hmm.
I think you get kind of all of the deadly sins sprinkled throughout with what all the demons are doing. And so again, we take all of we take a bunch of like really popular, well-known, because this is trying to be a very mainstream kind of movie, biblical ideas, and we find fun things to do in the mythology with them. And so you get your greed and your sloth and all of that. If you're really looking for it, I think that stuff is probably all there.
Yeah, I wonder how much, like, if they were specifically going in saying, like, we have to make sure we hit all of them, or if that's just something you kind of come to when, doing this kind of material.
Yeah, in a weird way, it feels like an attempt at trying to be, authentic but coy with the biblical source material, if not the comic source material.
Hmm.
In talking about this as adaptation, like I said at the beginning, it seems like it's wanting to start from, and this is a period where a lot of, and kind of the tail end of the period where a lot of superhero movies would do this, where you would take the initial comic material and make it a really like broad blueprint for your own thing, in trying to kind of grab onto whatever was really popular and working right then.
Hmm. Well, I mean, this is obviously a few years later, but this is kind of like the last in the same vein as Blade.
Yeah.
I bet they were looking at Blade really hard while making this.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that connection. Besides the Matrix, the thing that this was reminding me of, the Horus was Daredevil.
Yeah, that is true. It is also very post Daredevil.
And it only comes out a couple of years after that.
Hmm.
So with things like that, it's always hard to say how much of that is directed inspiration and how much of it is just it's in the same vein, it's of the same era.
Yeah, exactly. I also think, and maybe it's just because Rachel Weisz is here, but like, there's a little bit of the Mummy movies in this.
Oh, sure.
Not in like the kind of adventure feel, but like it was reminding me in places, like with some of the effects and whatnot.
FX, color palette, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That is a franchise I never ever think of.
Mhm.
I just never think about those movies. I grew up with them, and
Yeah.
they don't really stick with me.
There are
And
movies I watched a lot as a kid and I haven't seen in probably 15 years.
I completely it might be amusing to do a commentary on one of those.
We were gonna do the Scorpion King. We still
We've-
could.
We've threatened it. We've threatened it.
I also watched that a million times as a kid.
But I was just gonna say, I knew her from something.
Hmm. Yeah, and she's the mom in Black Widow as well, and she's married to Daniel Craig.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I want to come up with some kind of highfalutin read on the bowling alley, and I got nothing.
I need you to say highfalutin more often.
Yeah, I couldn't think of a better word right then.
It's very Yosemite Sam.
When
I
I've got
love
Austin, I always feel like I have to like self-edit a little bit,
it.
because if I don't use the right words, he's just gonna spend the next 5 minutes making fun of me. But yeah, I want to think there must be some kind of like symbolic or metaphorical point to the bowling alley as a location. It just feels like a really deliberate choice.
Like you knock down the pins, like he's knocking down demons to hell, something.
Yeah, I had that thought, and that felt just
Like
kind
tenuous at
of kind of
best.
broad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it could be that, or it could be that's the way he sees the battle with heaven and hell.
God is the machine that returns the ball to you. Like you don't know how it works, but it always gets it there. It works in mysterious ways.
Or just each side on the celestial plane, like throwing balls and seeing, who gets knocked over, and like some people make it and some people don't. It could be that.
Could be that, yeah.
Okay, well we've got
There's a couple of reads here.
We got a couple potential reads, yeah.
Heaven and hell both have pretty cheap grilled cheese sandwiches.
So one way this is like The Matrix, and there's like 115 different things I could go to, is it likes to come up with like creative and amusing explanations for. Are you all right? Something went down the wrong pipe, apparently.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
It likes to come up with creative explanations for real life things, in once again being the world behind the world. And amusingly, in each example, one of those things has to do with a cat.
Oh, of course, you have to have like a spiritual stuff based around cats.
So you have the cat in the Matrix that is representative of deja vu and what that means for the Matrix, and in this, the cat is a conduit kind of to let you cross over momentarily into hell, because they're half in and half out anyway, which has always been one of my favorite lines from this movie. It is kind of odd though, because it doesn't seem like he really requires the cat. He says it just helps. I don't know if he really like needs the cat. I don't know what he would do without it. And then we have her go there later through the immersion of the bathtub, and there's no cat related to that. So like when he's like,
I guess
cats,
that one's worse.
When he's like, cats are good, I'm like, it seems like you didn't need that at all. Because you sat down, you're all ready to go through with it, and then yeah, sure, bring that over here. That's good. Throw that in the pot too, in the magic stew also.
It's the jar of dirt and Pirates too. It helps more in a metaphorical way than a literal way. That sequence also is like right out of Nightmare on Elm Street, where the sister drops off the building,
which is a great shot.
Right out of 3. It is a really cool one.
I do think this movie might be a little bit underrated for cinematography. I'm not saying everything in it is great, but this guy is definitely a step or two up in class from a Mark Steven Johnson, if we're comparing it to Daredevil. I think there are some wonderfully deliberate artistic choices. I think there's some really good storyboarding in this movie.
Yeah, and he hasn't done like a ton since then, but he's like the main Hunger Games guy after the first one.
That's right.
And I've only seen the first 2, and I'm not like a fan, like a big fan of that stuff. But I just remember thinking 2 was like a big step up direction wise over the first one.
I had that too.
So that makes sense.
2 is the last one I saw. I had a weird thing with the Hunger Games franchise, because I wasn't the biggest fan of that or the premise either. I liked the first one, liked it well enough. I saw the second one, and I thought it was so good I didn't want to watch anymore, because I felt like there was no way they were going to top it, and I was just going to be disappointed.
Yeah.
I was like, I actually don't need any more of this franchise. I'm good. And I've never gone back to it. But I loved that movie.
Matrix.
Yeah. I loved that movie, and I said, that's all I need. I'm good. And I've never gone back to it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I've also never seen anything after 2, but I didn't like think of that, but it is like a big step up.
So I want to ask you for some psychoanalysis, Austin.
Okay.
I'm going to put Austin on the spot here. What is and I'm sure it would be subconscious, what is the motivation for John Constantine in this world and his smoking habit?
Oral fixation. I don't know. He's a cool guy. He smokes a lot.
Well, so the reason I ask that is I'm just going to break this down for a second. This is a guy who is well aware of how the celestial world works. It is literal for him. And he knows that his soul is bound for hell because he committed suicide when he was 12, and that's a mortal sin, and there's nothing he can do to get out of that except for maybe, again, absolution of his sins, and he hates God because of the game he plays on the earth with the devil, and he's not going to give him that satisfaction. So, what I'm wondering is, at first, if it's just he's kind of given up because he knows he's on the way there anyway, and so he just doesn't take care of himself, he just doesn't think about it because of that, or if it's just that was the big aspect from the comics we decided to bring over.
So I think it's probably that, and just smoking is a way to like get over stress. Like when you're stressed, you smoke, and when you constantly know you're going to hell, like that's probably part of it too.
And it's an intentionally ironic choice, of course, because he's breathing in fire all the time and he's on his way to hell, and he's sending demons to hell, and
yeah, exactly,
all of that. But I was a little bit of two minds about it because he's so desperate to stay alive and to earn his way to heaven at this point, and still chain smoking like crazy. And I get the kind of gag that at this point he's so far gone, there's no reason not to keep smoking because he's dead anyway, and so that's why he's still doing it now. But I'm wondering, like, 5 years ago?
Yeah, when he probably smoked so much that like trying to quit would be really rough. Like it's maybe a little silly that he's able to, kind of quit by the end of this film.
Yeah, that's his big vice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember if it was just an or not after credits. I'm trying to remember if it was a deleted scene or if it's actually in the movie. I just looked at this again and I didn't remember seeing it. But there's a thing they filmed where he is chewing gum at the end. Is that actually in the movie?
Shot, yeah.
Okay. I must have been looking away for some reason when I watched it this time. I couldn't remember.
Yeah, well, it's really quick. Like it's like the camera pans around him and he's got gum in his mouth. In the second movie, he'll take his shirt off and he'll have like 30 nicotine patches all across his body.
Well, you see, my worry would be a sequel this far later would be real soft rebooty, where it would come up with some kind of contrivance for him to be smoking again.
They probably would do that.
Because it's too iconic.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he does. You can't not have cigarette imagery unless they went, it's 2025 and we're a real anti-cigarette culture now, so we're going to avoid it like the plague.
And
no
I mean,
pun
movies
intended.
are weird about smoking now, so that could be a thing.
It could be. I do feel like smoking is coming back real hard in movies, though. I've been seeing it a lot more lately.
Possibly. I think it also depends on the studio too. Like
Yeah.
I think each studio has their own like specific ruling on it.
But like I said, I'm a little bit of two minds about the smoking choice and just trying to figure out if I buy the reason he's doing that.
If anything, with like the more like stress angle, you would think he would also be like binge drinking. But I guess it's harder to do what he's doing and also be like binge drinking.
Inebriated, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's got. I mean, I'm fine with like the one big vice, the one. Oh, I was gonna say the one big character flaw. He has multiple character flaws, but he has the one big vice.
Yeah.
I think the main, besides just trying to make this as much like the Matrix as it can get away with to get butts in seats, I feel like one of the big reasons that this character was changed as much as he was from the source material is to try to make him more sympathetic for a general audience. And I actually think it walks an okay line in making him more likable and also making him cynical and jaded enough not to be like too insanely far away from that original character. Like he's not that same character, but it also doesn't feel like too lame and cheap about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because he just kind of falls into like the jaded detective role, which is very much a trope that we always do.
Because he is pretty far away from the away from the spirit of that character, where each major superhero character kind of has that big like character thing that defines them, and if you get too far away from that, it's not them anymore. So like if you take power and responsibility away from Peter Parker, is he still Spider-Man? If Bruce Wayne's parents didn't get murdered, or if he carries around a gun, is he Bruce Wayne? Et cetera, et cetera. With Constantine, it's he's riddled with guilt, and we've changed that a bit with this character. He does have that in places, but I don't think it's his defining character trait, where he says to Angela, because of course her name is Angela, and speaking of Spawn, he says to Angela pretty late in the movie, like, you don't want to be around me. If you are, you're going to get killed. That's what happens when people are around me. That is a big Constantine thing. But yeah. But in the comics, it's because of, and the TV show, it's because of his big character-defining moment in his background, where he gets a girl sent to hell, and he's atoning for that for the rest of his life, but he cannot help but continue to be, and justifies the means, and keep making mistakes like that in his mind for the greater good, and so he just keeps compounding his guilt. And this character is more of is more about like a tragedy out of his control when he's younger, where he feels like the deck is stacked against him and the rest of humanity, and he is never going to be able to get the upper hand, and so like he killed himself because he was just overwhelmed by what he was seeing. And how is that really his fault at the end of the day? And so he's supposed to be like a tragic kind of victim, which is sort of the opposite of what John Constantine is in the comics.
Mm-hmm. No, that's very true. I mean, I do like that they at least keep that everyone around him dies throughout this movie.
Yeah, he winds up in a somewhat similar place to the comic John, in that he is so cynical and jaded that he kind of loses himself.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's at least, something. Because obviously, like you said, this is very loose, but at least there's like little threads that you can pull on where you go, okay, this did come from something.
Well, it's very much in that tradition of, I would throw out some examples that would all be in to different degrees, but like 89 Batman has this a little bit, where it's Tim Burton's interpretation, and he makes him a little bit closer to himself than comic book Batman. The Shadow really goes its own way. The Mask goes its own way. These are all examples of movies that stray real hard from the source material, but carve out a real unique like kind of world and character of their own. And so it still passes the sniff test in that it's not maybe what you came for, but it's still worth seeing. Where like maybe they don't replace it with something better, but they replace it with something decent.
Yeah, and that's where and maybe like the better aspect is debatable with this comparison, but that's where I get the Blade thing from, where with that obviously it's he's a vampire hunter that's half vampire, half human, and that's pretty much all we took. And we made our own thing up entirely. And both of these also very much have that, like, world aspect. Sorry, have I, like, knocked myself out of frame?
You really have, yeah. I was seeing if it was on my end, or if...
No, here, I'll fix my camera. Sorry, I just looked down.
Thanks, buddy. That has been distracting me for the last 20 minutes.
So I think I sat back and I kicked my computer back.
Oh, now he's a lot higher than me. He's highfalutin.
Now I can look down at you. I think I have to look this way.
Yeah, well done. This action scene is one of the weaker looking things in the movie, I think.
Yeah, but I also think it's really amusing that he's fighting what looks like just like a swarm of bees. But yeah, it doesn't look especially great.
I like that billboard a lot. We have a lot of fun with like thematic signage in this movie.
Yeah, I was thinking about that too today, where I was like, "Is that too far?" No, that's fun.
It really depends on the tone you're carving out, and if you're not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah, no, it's very like Farewell to Arms and Evil Dead.
Yeah, that's a good call. I just think this movie has kind of a nice tongue-in-cheekness about it.
Yeah.
Where I make this point about things all the time, but you know, all the characters really play it straight, and they don't realize how absurd of a world they're in.
See, and you know what?
I think it sells it.
Looking at this again, though, we're 2 years before Ghost Rider. This looks a lot better than some of the stuff in Ghost Rider with the monsters.
It does. You know what my complaint is about it?
What's that?
And I don't know if this is fair or not, but like it doesn't even look horrible.
No, I actually think the close-up looks better on the face, which is weird because you would think that the close-up would be what looks worse.
Yeah, it's kind of just too typical superhero fare, I feel like, for what we have here. And then the scene doesn't even last very long, so it's like, why did we bother with it in the first place?
We needed an action scene. They're like, okay, we're gonna have to deal with Shia LaBeouf in a second, so we need an action scene first.
Yeah, and we haven't really had like a big fight, a big showdown, or anything yet.
Yeah, exactly. I also think, isn't there in like one of the first Hellraiser stories, isn't there like a thing with like a bug monster or something like that?
I'm not sure. I've not read a ton of that original stuff.
Yeah, and I think I've looked at the first trade like years ago.
I feel like I've reviewed one or two things at some point. I might have reviewed the chain smoking story arc that some of this comes from.
Oh, okay.
What is that? Dangerous Habits?
I'm not sure. That sounds about right, though. Now he's in the Iceberg Lounge in the Batman.
Yeah. Look at that.
I've come to see the Penguin.
Look at that color scheme. For a second, it was just straight up all the red you have in the Batman. And then he turned a corner, and now it's all blue.
The Penguin.
And then he goes to this movie's version, again, this is retroactive, of the Continental.
Yep. But I was even thinking of that like Kingpin base in John Wick 4 as well.
Sure, but what I mean is you've got to have the
like what it is.
You've got to have like the neutral party.
Yeah.
And this has that. I was trying to think if there's any Matrix equivalent to that, where like Keanu Reeves just keeps winding up in action movies where there's always that
all the rave stuff.
the rave stuff, but also just that neutral ground where the hero and the villain can stand there and speechify at each other, and they're not allowed to fight right now. And I guess you sort of get that in Reloaded with the Merovingian, but like not really. Let me read the super chat. Darren Dooley, $5 super chat. Thanks, man. One critic called this a one-of-a-kind theological noir. Do you agree, and have we had other movies like this since? I think that's
an interesting way of putting it. Yeah,
I think that's a
cool
subgenre title to toss this in.
Yeah. As for movies like this, we had BPRD.
Yeah. Such as that was, and its direct-to-video sequel.
Yeah, BPRD
2.
More.
I never saw that.
I haven't even seen the first one.
It's god awful. I don't care what Brandon says. That was the first thing he and I reviewed together, and I
remember that review, yeah.
and I have made fun of him relentlessly since. But anyway, yeah, theological noir. There's honestly quite a few things that sort of fall into this, because I feel like a lot of vampire things.
Well, I was gonna say, like, I guess, with that being,
Legion would be one, as much of a piece of crap as that is.
Yeah, would something like a Da Vinci Code like count under that, like those movies?
Yeah, maybe so.
There's 3 of those. So.
Yeah, I don't want to just spend the whole commentary trying to come up with theological noirs, but I really like that term.
No, I really like that too. That makes me want more of them, just so we can throw that around more.
Papa Midnight might be the most sort of off the page character from those comics. Obviously, Chaz Kramer is just completely reinvented as a kid sidekick, which is not what he is in the comics or the TV show. He does drive a taxi, but and he helps Constantine out, but that's about where the similarities end.
Yeah, he's very short round in this, where he's like the kid that drives him around.
You gotta love how John has to just come right out and say Robin or Tonto. It's like, yeah, it's pretty obvious that's what we're doing. And it's pretty obvious we did that because we're trying to get a PG-13 for a sort of family audience, which is hilarious because then it did not achieve that. But a lot of the choices it makes are in a, trying to make the material not too adult. And I kind of commend it for like keeping its subject matter as dark and serious and adult as it does while trying to go for that PG-13. Like, there are some places I've already mentioned where I feel like it is trying to be a little too mainstreamy, but it doesn't fall to the depths of Spawn or something.
Well, I was actually going to mention the Spawn movie, because that also tries to do the kid thing, and it's way worse than it is here.
Yeah, and as much as you're making fun of LaBeouf, he's legitimately fine in this movie.
Oh yeah, no, I just think it's funny to make fun of Shia LaBeouf. He is good in this.
But I think he does a good job.
Yeah.
I think the entire supporting cast, with the exception of the love interest, is underutilized.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody could have had a little more to do, and obviously you want your supporting cast to serve the story and serve your protagonist, so I'm not complaining that they don't have big character arcs themselves, but sometimes they feel a little bit more like plot devices than they should just because they don't get enough to do. Like, Hennessy seems like he could be a really interesting character, and he's kind of brought in just to die real quick.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel like we're just kind of throwing out too many threads? Like, do you think we maybe should have streamlined this a little bit?
It feels like a screenplay that's pared way too far down. It feels like all of these people at one time had larger, more interesting roles to play. And I also think that that's evidenced by the fact that even one of them was taken out completely. Because, I don't know if you know about this, but there was a female character that John is supposed to be like sleeping around with on the side, just through the whole movie. Like, occasionally she would show back up, and the only thing left with her now is at the end in the train station or wherever it is, with the sprinklers with the holy water.
Oh, okay. So when she showed up, because that's Michelle Monaghan, I was like, that's like an actual actress?
Yep.
That's really weird.
And now she's got this really weird cameo, and you can sort of feel it, I think, in that scene. Like, even without knowing that, when she says holy water, where you're like, this feels like a character that used to be in this movie. Like, it really feels like that, and that's because it is. And the director said
I was like, am I stupid? Like, this
feels
like a character.
And I didn't know who that actress was, of course, when I first saw this, but I always thought that was weird. I was like, this feels like it's supposed to be somebody.
Yeah, because now you can have a weird trivia thing where this is the same year as Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is the Shane Black film that helps get Downey back into good graces. So now you have like a weird trivia question there. It's quite good.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But the director's explanation for taking her out was that Yeah, and I think some of it is just they runtime, and they just decided they had too many characters, because I think they're parsing a lot of stuff down. But and not to the point where the story falls apart or anything. It honestly doesn't feel like a movie with a bunch of holes to me. But it does feel like the supporting cast must have been really trimmed down. And it's just done in a relatively natural way, I guess. But anyway, he said that she kind of took away from John's loneliness, and that if you've got this girl that he keeps going to, he didn't want John to have like too many friends and too many confidants.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, that kind of makes sense. You don't want it to feel like he's got 8,000 people that he's hanging out with.
Well, and I think it kind of hurts the love story a little bit too. It's maybe a good thing that she was taken out.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like kind of the subtlety of their connection. I don't know if you agree that they've got a pretty natural chemistry. I kind of like them together, and I like that it's not a like real easy forced romance where like they're making out and having sex halfway through the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I like the way they dance around it, but I also like how they dance around it only in the sense that they don't have time to pursue a thing like that right now, and Constantine is like dying, so he's not going to get in a real serious relationship at the moment, and she just lost her sister, so she's not just going to shack up with the first guy that she's attracted to. Like, it kind of makes both of them feel like more reasonable adults and more sympathetic, that they don't just jump in the shack right away. But I also appreciate that it's not ambiguous about whether or not it's supposed to be a romance. Like, they just don't consummate it, but they're definitely interested. So I like that.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they have great chemistry.
It seems like a very convenient location for this fight with demons.
Whoa!
Gotta love the shot with Mother Mary holding her hands out right behind them.
Yeah, she's like, "I got your back if you need it, guys."
Yeah, this is definitely yet another movie that is 9 times better than Spawn, and gives me some of the things I wish that material had given me, both in comics and that movie. But it also has some of the same problems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Particularly
got rid of them easy.
Particularly just in the ambiguity of the celestial mythology. And it's like, what's actually happening is a lot clearer than what's actually happening with Spawn, certainly. And even like the motivations of the larger forces at work, like, I get quite a bit better than I do in Spawn. But I will say, Roger Ebert hated this movie, by the way. He gave it like 1.5 stars, and he put it in his book of like movies I hated.
That doesn't shock me.
Yeah, and one of his big complaints was that God seems to be like kind of controlling everything and is all powerful like he's supposed to be, and the devil doesn't seem like he should have any chance whatsoever, but just does for no good reason. And I kind of agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, we have so little here. I didn't really have that, but again, like, I'm also coming into this with no real knowledge of that stuff. I do feel like a lot of this stuff kind of feels like it's being peppered to do more with in the future.
Yeah, it kind of wants to be the first in a franchise.
Mm-hmm. But I also think there's enough here that also just works as a cult classic as well.
Mm-hmm. No, to its credit, it's not like an X-Men or something where like it really requires a
lives or
sequel
dies
to
on that.
finally get rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I'm sorry, what did you say?
I just said where it lives or dies on that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you said something about a lizard, and I was very
Oh
confused.
yeah. Yeah, with the lizard shows up in the sequel. See, this is why the cat helps. He didn't have to drown himself. Without a cat, it's a lot worse.
Yeah, but that's not the way he puts it with the bathtub later. He says the reason
Yeah.
she has to fully immerse herself there, and by the way, it's not a full immersion. I don't know what he's talking about. The reason she has to fully immerse herself is because she's uninitiated. She's never done it before. So the crash course is you have to basically drown yourself. So it still looks like he could totally do this without the cat.
He just thought it was a cooler thing to say than, I don't have a cat, so I have to drown you.
The other big departure with this character, of course, and this is a very standard thing for a superhero adaptation to do that just wants to make things a little bit easier for the audience to understand, is he's got to have superpowers because he's a superhero. And in the comics, John Constantine is just a really well practiced kind of wizard. And we do have, to its credit again, incantations and stuff in this movie, which is nice. Like even Doctor Strange doesn't do any of that, which I don't like. But a lot of the explanation for why John's able to do things that he does without relics or a whole lot of incantation or anything is he's got this connection to that celestial world. He's got this kind of empathic
he
power.
lives in the halfway point.
One question I have is because it seems like he's got, if I'm understanding it right, basically the very same power that Angela and her sister have, right? Like, isn't that the idea that like they were all able to, see the other dimension beneath our dimension, like around them.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's almost like that, Star Wars thing where it's like he's a Force user that's, had practice and training while they're, able to use the Force. Like they're like the Leia where it's like they don't have training and practice in that, but like they can still feel things. Is kind of the sense I got.
So riddle me this, because I think if this is the case, it should be made a lot more explicit, and then we should talk about what hell looks like. Because hilariously, Ebert hated this hell but loved Spawn Hell, and that just really makes me laugh.
Oh, I mean, that's just a classic Ebert. If there's like any creativity in like a horror thing, he's like, this sucks. Well, and I assume you like this movie because hell is just the logo in Batman Begins.
Oh, that's true. It is. Well, I was gonna say it looks like he's. That's great. I was gonna say it looks like he's walking around a studio movie logo. I can't think of which one, but there's a logo for a lot of more recent horrors,
Maybe
or
like
thrillers.
Lionsgate or something. Yeah,
Maybe that's what it is. That looks like a dystopian wasteland like this.
Yeah. It's also very Lord of the Rings, like the kind of smear effect. It's not to the same degree.
The big iconic shot for this movie is his jumping up to grab the hospital thing with all the demons underneath him, and that was a poster,
right?
Yeah. And there is a painted version of it for the steelbook.
Oh, nice.
It's okay. I'm not in love with what it looks like, actually, but it's cool that it's that image, but
that's disappointing. I got too excited too quick.
I think it's okay, but I'm not sure if I'm going to buy that. I do kind of wish we'd put this off for a month, because then if I'd wanted to get it, I could have actually shown it on the program. But Jason picked this for now, so here we are. But okay, so here's my question, Austin.
Yeah.
If Constantine himself is supposed to be a not a telepath, not an empath. What is the word I'm looking for? But he's supposed to have this sixth sense where he can basically see this world's version of the Matrix, right?
Yeah, I don't know what that would be called, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, why can't unless it has to be a female, why can't he be the vessel to bring Maman across? And like we make it sort of look like a childbirth thing, but it's not said explicitly that it has to be a woman. So I'm not really sure why Gabriel and Maman can't just use Constantine.
Mm-hmm. I assumed it was like the childbirth thing.
They should talk about that.
Yeah, no, they should. It makes me wonder if there's maybe a deleted scene that talks about that. Not that that would excuse it, but like I wonder if that maybe is there somewhere.
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to go back and look at all of the special features or all of the deleted scenes. There's like 18 minutes of it. There could have been a director's cut of this movie, and I'm kind of surprised that's never happened. Although I get the feeling that a lot of what was cut, the director was really happy with cutting, so I don't know that he would want to put all that back together necessarily.
It'd have to be like a producer's cut or something.
Mm-hmm. I mean, honestly, I think we should just go full tilt and start calling those the money milking cut. But yeah, I like this actor that plays Hennessy a lot. I wish he got a little bit more to do.
Yeah, no, I like him quite a bit too.
I do think that there's some sloppy storytelling things here and there where it's not entirely clear on, especially a first viewing, how we get from point A to point B. Like, it took a long time for me to understand that Hennessy intentionally puts the symbol, like carves the symbol in his hand to send Constantine a message. Like, I didn't understand that.
Okay.
Because he's not himself, and he's, you know, kind of lost it here with this spell that's been put on him, and I thought that was part of that somehow.
Mm-hmm. I know that's right. Do you think he maybe should have had a line or something? Because that reveal moment's really great when he puts the napkin on the hand.
Yeah, I would have liked that.
Whoa, he did this to tell me.
Or even something from Hennessy himself, as silly as that might have seemed, since he would just be talking to himself.
You could have had it be like a frantic talking to himself, though, like a panicking, I don't want to die, like I gotta figure something out before I do moment.
Oh, okay. They think they've done it. I missed that. That's why he says John right there. They think they've done exactly what we're talking about, but all he says is John.
Oh, okay.
And then he carves that in himself. That's why he says that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That was too subtle for me.
I guess he can't talk too much because there's like
he's drowning.
CGI liquid coming out of his mouth.
Yeah. That's kind of a fun practical effect where he's trying to drink and he can't get anything out of the bottles. But there's one bit where he breaks one and he's trying to drink it and he does get liquid all over his face.
None of it went in his mouth, though. It missed.
Right. I also don't know how they happened to find a 12-year-old kid that looks exactly like Keanu Reeves, but, like, well done. That's, like, spectacular casting.
Yeah, I don't know. He's like a cross between Keanu Reeves and, like, Max Landis. It's really weird.
I don't know. I think he actually looks a lot like Keanu Reeves. I think they went back in time and they stole Keanu Reeves from the timeline. But then this kid just looks like Tobias from the Animorphs TV show and not especially like all that much like Keanu Reeves. Like, we'll just give him really long hair and that'll do it.
They went back in time and they were like, you need to come to the future with us. And 12-year-old Keanu was like, whoa, the future, dude, that's crazy.
One reply also feels like John doesn't take advantage of her. Yeah, I like that a lot too. Again, that line that it walks where he's kind of mean. At first I think we're supposed to think that he doesn't really care about anyone, and I think that's more of a front that he's putting on because he's again just jaded and angry with the world, but like, you know, he's supposed to deep down, you know, like kind of actually have a good heart, which again is not exactly Constantine.
Yeah.
But it works for this material.
One reply just pointed out something I completely forgot. The guy playing Hennessy is our new Pa Kent.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I forgot. I remember when it was announced. It was like, oh, he was in this movie, but I couldn't remember who he was.
I hope they find some excuse to bring him back to life in the sequel. Because it'd be kind of fun if you had two DC movies with him, like, real close together.
I thought you were gonna say, I hope they find an excuse to have Pa Kent drown.
I'm
and
also
carve an S into his hand.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. I'm also wondering if there's any chance they'll be wild enough to try to bring Shia LaBeouf back.
At this point, probably not.
Probably not. But
he's an actual cannibal now.
If it happened, that'd be wild. Wait, really?
No, that's like a song that came out a while ago.
Oh, okay.
Oh my god, like a decade ago now. Crazy.
I don't keep up with celebrity gossip, so I know that he's supposed to be kind of a crazy wild man, but I don't know a lot of the details. And I know that occasionally he'll still show up and stuff, so it seems like he can kind of work with people. So that's why I'm saying, is there maybe a chance they'd bring him back? Because he's in an after-credit scene here as an angel, and if they
I actually missed that. I didn't know
and if they wanted to do something with that, they totally could.
No, he'll get Indiana Jones. There'll just be a scene where Constantine's like, he's dead and he didn't come back. That's why I smoke again.
Or they'll just recast him.
Yeah, or that.
But I mean, you don't need him.
Yeah. It'd be funny if he came back and he was still the kid's sidekick.
So in comparing this to The Matrix, I think it's kind of a fun comparison contrast exercise because it's easy to look at this and go, again, like a cult celestial Matrix. And look at it as like a 1-for-1 like exact movie again. It isn't. It's just enough in that vein to sell it, and I appreciate that it does different things and it isn't exactly that. I like that Keanu Reeves is both not exactly playing the one again, but playing like this really supremely important character that the Heaven and Hell sides are vying for. But he also is for Angela kind of like a Morpheus if he was a cynical and jaded Morpheus. You know, because Morpheus is like the one guy that he's like a prophet. He like fully believes in this religious ideal and sees Neo as like Christ coming back. And in this, you've got the guy that understands the world beneath the world, but is again jaded about it, and as Gabriel says at the beginning, knows but doesn't believe, which are two different things. And so through that lens, he's got to bring this girl, who I guess on at least the devil's side is kind of the one, right? Or at least a vessel to bring over Mammon. She's like the big important linchpin. And so he's not like the believer like Morpheus is, but he still kind of fills that role.
Yeah, I feel like there's enough Matrix in this that if you're looking for it, you can see it, but if you're not, you probably won't even think about it. It's like that exact like right middle level.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Because I wasn't thinking too much about it when it came out, and I do think that a lot of the changes made to the source material were intentionally calculatedly to be like the Matrix. But maybe it's so calculating they also figured out a way to manipulate it so you wouldn't pick up on it as much.
Yeah,
because
it's also, like,
it jumped out at me like a sledgehammer on this viewing. I couldn't stop thinking about it.
Yeah, because it's also just like very Blade, like how he picks up this woman and he's explaining the world to her, and she's the kind of person that we can get the exposition out to for the audience in that way. Except here, she's also the rogue in the first X-Men, where she's also the MacGuffin.
Yeah, that's a good point too. but it's also very Matrix. I don't know how I never thought about this before, or not much anyway, but just in set design and color palette, there's a ton of green in this.
Mm-hmm. There's
And
a ton of just
his apartment looks like a lot of the sets in the Matrix, and we keep going to these real like kind of dilapidated places that look like they're right out of the Matrix.
there's a ton of just like really strong, like vibrant color scenes, where it's like you'll go to the club and it's the red scene and then the blue scene.
Yeah.
Here we're in like a brown scene, or like maybe like a yellowish, like it's like in that kind of tone.
Well, it goes without saying, but I appreciate how stylized it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, especially at this point.
This is one of my favorite scenes because I love how these two actors are playing, especially Reeves, are playing the absurdity and the tongue-in-cheekness. The devil had a son too. There's no 17th act of Corinthians. All that stuff is really fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's pretty cool when some of the most enjoyable parts of a movie are the exposition. I love all the exposition in this movie. I think it's always creative and fun, and I like the silliness of it.
Yeah, it's funny because Keanu Reeves isn't the type of actor I would typically think of as being really good at delivering exposition, but he does it really well in this.
As does Shia LaBeouf at the end. There's this fun scene when he is explaining something that Papa Midnight and John wouldn't think that he knows, and it's just this big exposition dump, and then the payoff is, I've been learning because I want to be your apprentice, but you're not letting me do anything. That's a good scene.
Well, it's a good payoff too for his introduction, where you have all the witchcraft books.
Yeah,
the dash of his car.
Yeah, he's been teaching himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that he's another character that is too close to John, and so he dies. But I don't love that there's not really any discussion or follow-through about that.
Yeah, they just they're like, oh, well, he's dead, and they move on.
Yeah, it feels like John's guilt is an afterthought.
He's too busy at that point. He's like, I gotta solve.
But I mean, through the whole movie, his guilt is an afterthought.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And is the character that probably is most underutilized. You gotta love that the bug-obsessed guy's name is Beeman.
Mm-hmm.
That just sounds like a Smallville choice.
Well, maybe that's the guy from the bug arc that I was talking about. I don't know.
Yeah, he looks like he's out of an X-Files episode or something.
Hmm. He probably is in an X-Files episode.
I'm also not just saying the Smallville thing because one of the big directors for that show is named Greg Beeman.
Oh my god.
I'm proud of us for our bowling reads. I think we're onto something.
You think we hit a strike?
It's one of those. I think we did. Hey, we at least got a spare.
And there's a 666 on the wall.
Oh, I missed that. Of course.
Yeah, I noticed that earlier, and I was going to mention it, but we were like in the middle of something. I can't remember.
I was probably prattling on about something.
Yeah, something stupid. Yeah, I feel like in the arc I read, there was something like this, where there was a guy who dies like this with bugs, but it's been so long.
But yeah, there's another billboard, the Got Faith.
Mm-hmm. I like that it's a water tap pouring wine out of it. That's pretty great.
I do think at this point it was becoming kind of a cliche to set celestial things with angels and demons in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh yeah,
it's like, well, we're gonna take it out of Britain and we're gonna make it Keanu Reeves and not give him a British accent and not even have him have blonde hair or anything.
mhm.
Where are we gonna set it? I don't know. Los Angeles, because it has Angel in the name, and everything around this, like Angel does that. Like everything does that.
Well, I think they saw Coppola's Dracula and they were like, let's not have Keanu Reeves do a British accent. Let's learn from that.
No, I mean you'd want to cast a British guy. I mean there's American actors that do really good British accents, but
And Keanu is a Canadian actor that can't do a British accent. But he tried, and God bless him for it.
as much as I like the NBC show and wish that it had continued and appreciated that it was actually a really good British actor playing Constantine, it always seemed to me like there's a really good potential BBC show.
Oh, interesting.
And you'd think they would have gone after that license.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much they really care about like this material. Like I don't know how big this is like over there.
Yeah, I don't either. But just with this success of Doctor Who and stuff, it seems like a good potential property for them.
No, it absolutely could be.
And it would just be cool to see an all UK production.
Mm-hmm.
I want to read some kind of symbolism or something into the green window she's standing in too, but I think they just thought it was a cool shot because that happened to be there.
She's in the Matrix. She hasn't gotten out yet.
Well, and she's also like Neo in
Now she's out.
Yeah, she's also like, maybe that isn't intentional because this is the moment where she makes the choice to, finally embrace what she can do. But she's also like Neo in that she's always known that something is wrong with the world.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the difference is Neo's been running toward that, and she's been running away from it. But they do kind of have that in common.
Yeah, it's true.
Another thing I think is a little convoluted and difficult to fully understand and appreciate on first viewing is what exactly the catalyst for the suicide is with Isabel.
Sister.
Yeah, like that whole mystery is really confusing on a first viewing, or at least I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like there's this question back and forth of like did she really do it? Was she coerced? And then we find out that she left a message for her sister and knew what was going to happen. And then it still seems kind of confusing as to whether she did it on purpose because she thought she had to get things going. I was really confused about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a couple plot points like that I think are a little muddled. Where like I'm not entirely sure, but at the same time, it's something I'm just kind of going with in the moment.
So yeah, he's going to say you have to be fully immersed, and then her hands are going to be out of the tub, and her knees are out of the tub. My wife's explanation was, well, he's lying to her. It's not that she had to be fully immersed, it's that he had to drown her and put her face all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier to convince her of full immersion than I have to drown you.
That's exactly what I thought it was too. I like the moment where like I think she acts it really well, where she's like, "Wait a minute, you're just drowning me."
I love her face. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, she plays it so well.
When she gets possessed later and she's underwater, though, she gives that exact same expression. It's like that's just the face she makes when she's underwater. Speaking to the somewhat subtle way the romance is handled, and the point that one of the viewers said with his not taking advantage of her. One of my favorite moments in the movie is when she asks if she has to be naked to do this, and he doesn't say anything. I think the timing of that is really good. That's one of the moments that makes me think they have a really good chemistry together. Like a lot of the dry levity in the movie just comes from like little snippets of banter like that between them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that bit where he says, I'm trying to, I'm like I'm thinking. That's a great moment. I love that.
When the "Do you have to be naked to do this" is like probably in the trailer, right? Like that's a trailer line.
I don't remember. I'm not sure. But I like how, and I like that she's charmed by it. That like, she doesn't see that as, like skeezy or something, because they're like, again, they're both interested in each other, and they find like little ways to make that clear to each other without coming out and saying it. And even when he does kiss her, or in places, or almost does, it's with a pretense of moving the story along, of like doing a plot thing he has to do. So one question I have is, do you have to have his power? Do you have to have his connection to the celestial plane in order to do this? Or can anybody that understands what's going on use water as a catalyst to go to hell? Because if you think about it, there's nothing happening here besides water. Like there's no extra element involved. It's just him and water in a bathtub. Like, that's it.
Like, you think somebody tried to like drown their wife or something, and this happened, where like suddenly the bathtub exploded, and she came out and she's like, I was in hell.
Yeah, or somebody put their feet in a bucket of water and were holding a cat, and then they ended up going to the hospital because the cat just scratched their face.
Maybe, I don't know.
What happened to you? Well, the cat was half in, half out. One reply, this scene has always made me uncomfortable and left me with a lifelong fear of being drowned by someone.
I mean, that's probably a good fear to have.
Well, I mean, it could be irrational, though, where you're like, I'm not going to take swimming lessons because I'm afraid my instructor is going to drown me.
Or you become so obsessed with not being drowned that you end up being drowned because of it.
It's just a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
Well, they do say that, like, if you're in like a big crowd and you look to your left, you look to your right, at least one of those people will try to drown you.
Oh, I think John Kelling might be right. Maybe it's a medium. Maybe that's the right.
Yeah, that would probably be it.
Okay, so can I ask you a really stupid question?
If you want to.
Because my wife tried to explain this to me and I still didn't buy it.
Yes.
She picks up the coin, and the coin goes across her fingers the same way it does with Balthazar, and I do not understand why.
Well, she's doing the thing.
Does everyone just know how to do that? Because, like, I don't know how to do that. If I picked up that coin, I wouldn't be able to... And she's like, well, that's a really easy trick. And I'm like, yeah, but you'd have to be taught how to do it. Like, I don't know how to do it. And then she was like, well, she's telepathic. And I was like, or has that ability. And I'm like, what does that have to do with moving a coin across your hand? Like, yeah, Balthazar can do that. And maybe somehow she knows that he can do that, but I don't understand how she does it.
I don't know, it's not that hard to do it. I can do that with like a small coin. That's a big coin.
I've never even attempted to do that.
I don't know. I watched Pirates of the Caribbean a lot as a kid, and Jack Sparrow does that, so I was like, oh, I should do that. That's cool. And that was with like a tiny like cent coin. So like, but this would be a lot easier.
I really like the ancient artifacts in this movie, and the just really fun over the top weapons, and the dragon's breath and all of that.
Well, and him holding a giant cross gun is really fun.
It's great.
Yeah. No, that's the type of stuff I want in religious action films. And theological noirs.
Noirs, yeah. Trademark. I want to know who said it. I want to know who first coined that.
Darren Dooley, I think. No, because he said some critics said that.
So I think she should take back the sexist statement she makes when she gets out of the car.
Uh-oh.
And just goes, men, because then she's in like massive danger because hell is after her specifically, and John's like, you need to stay in the car, and she just chalks that up to he's being like a, you know, like a chauvinist, or like, you know, thinking that like the woman can't take care of herself. And then Balthazar is like, yeah, you idiot, you brought her right to us. She owes him an apology.
At least she didn't go full exorcist believer.
Do you remember the character in, I can't remember his name. Do you remember the Kingpin henchman in 90s Spider-Man that ends up with a Two-Face face that's voiced by David Warner?
It's like Landon something. I was gonna say Michael Landon, but
yeah, Landon, that's his name. I forget his first name. But anyway, this is a perfect live-action representation of that character. He looks identical to that guy.
That's true.
Like,
see, my brothers and I just called him Two-Face, but yeah.
Yeah, because he looks like Two-Face. But yeah,
Two-Face.
That's Landon. I don't know why Landon's in this movie, but he is. Balthazar just turns into Landon.
And especially because this is DC.
I know. They ripped off a Marvel thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's also a good-looking Two-Face, but...
Sure.
But still.
That makeup job's awesome.
Mm-hmm. He needed to be like, I hate mutants, we need to kill all of them.
Also, Balthazar is the single dumbest demon from hell in the history of movies. And I've complained about this in other videos, but I'll mention it again, because it's so stupid. Did you have this, Austin, where you're like, how are you dumb? And I can't decide if I'm complaining about the script or if I'm complaining about this character. Like, I'm trying to decide if I buy that he's this dumb.
Yeah.
Where he actually believes that John might be able to absolve him of sins and send him to heaven. When the rules, as he understands it and as Gabriel understands it, is that those are all rights reserved for mankind, for human beings. And then he like, it's a fun idea. They treat it like a torture scene, but then at the end of it, John's like, yeah, you gotta ask for forgiveness. And I'm like, what's not just that? He's a demon. Like, it wouldn't have worked on him anyway.
I gotta say, it's probably just the character's stupid.
He's gotta know that.
Maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
Why is he that stupid?
Maybe demons don't know that. Maybe they're like, if we go up to the surface world, John Constantine can send us to heaven.
Well, clearly, Lucifer needs to have more like employee meetings.
Well, that's why
it's hell.
That's why it's hell. Everyone's uninformed.
Oh, Herbert Landon. That's right.
I knew it wasn't Michael Landon, the guy from Highway to Heaven.
It's weird to me that you remember that more readily than a Spider-Man character, but all right.
I mean, he's like kind of a Spider-Man character. Like, it's weird because he continues to be in that show, but he's introduced for the X-Men crossover.
Yeah, I know, but you're bearing the lead. The real question is, why do you know anything about Highway to Heaven?
Because Highway to Heaven is the greatest show of all time.
It needs a crossover with this.
I would love that so much. You have no idea.
That'd be great.
That'd be beautiful. If they made a John Constantine show that was just Highway to Heaven, and then there was an episode where they crossed over, that would be beautiful.
Darren Dooley actually knows who called it theological noir.
Beautiful.
Someone named Richard Corliss from Time Magazine.
Ah. Well, there you go. All the credit to that game.
This effect not only does not hold up great now, but I found a little embarrassing in the theater.
Yeah, it's a little the fire effect in Harry Potter. I think it's
Yes.
5.
It looks like it was made in After Effects.
Yeah.
For those of you not watching, we're talking about the piece of face that's talking after Balthazar dies.
Hmm. Yes, Herbert Landon's becoming dust.
I also feel like John's a little slow on the uptake with the MacGuffin plot.
Hmm.
When they finally in this scene piece together, the thing we read in the Devil's Bible about God helping Mammon to cross over is about the stains of blood on the Spear of Destiny. I feel like they could come to that a little quicker, and in this scene it kind of reads like they think the audience is stupid. Because
Yeah, it's
I
possible.
figured that out well before they did.
Hmm.
Now, what I can't remember is if they didn't even know that we're after the Spear of Destiny until that point, but I think that had already come on. That's a Matrix shot.
Oh, that shot was right out of the Venom teaser trailer before they put in the effects of the Venom, the riot being there. Just everything flying around. With
Yeah, but I'm
nothing
talking
there.
about him standing at the window and the back
No, no,
off
I know.
shot from the building. That's just a Matrix shot.
Oh, okay. Oh, I must be a little bit behind you then.
Oh, sorry.
No, no, it's okay. I mean, you wouldn't know that. Oh my God, this really is the Batman. Oh, now we're back at the club again.
I don't really know why. Am I missing something? I don't really know why John uh, punches the bouncer. Like, is it just so he'll let Chaz in?
Yeah, it's like that, and he's not messing around now. Now he's angry. That and because they thought it would be an amusing bit.
Yeah. I don't know where Papa Midnight gets force powers from, but all right. He's the only character in the movie that does that. He just like force pushes him against the wall. That feels like a thing they decided he could do on the day. What, did Richard Lester direct this movie?
They had it's like that scene in Cars where they're talking about like the map or whatever, where they're like, "Oh, yeah, we put this town on the map," and they talked like so much about how they would visually show them taking out a map. That was what happened. They were like, "How does Papa Midnight do this?" And they went through 8,000 different ways. And then finally, they just went, "What if he just force pushed
He just
him
pushed him up against the wall.
and then shoved his hands into his intestines?"
That's pretty cool.
It is
I
cool.
wonder if $200 shirt wasn't an ad lib,
Yeah, that sounds like an ad lib.
but that's a fun line.
Hmm.
So, Austin, I think when you're writing a screenplay, there's a really fine line. It's difficult to find where it is between giving the audience credit, you know, like dropping us in the action and letting us piece together status quo and history as much as we can for ourselves.
Hmm.
I think there's a real fine line between doing that and between like, I'm sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought.
That's okay. Is it just about how that Spirit Destiny thing? Like, you think the script could have made it harder for them to get to, or
No, sorry. So what I
bad?
was going to talk about is things like Papa Midnight's past,
Oh,
where
okay.
he at one time was in the club with the guys fighting on the side of heaven, and now he is this neutral party between heaven and hell. I'd love to know what changed, like why I like what changed in the status quo that made him feel like he's gotta, if not play both sides, just be friendly with each. And sometimes I think it really works to not give us all that information or save it for later if you're gonna make more installments. And sometimes you don't need that information, and it's very case by case. But there are a few things in this movie where I'm like, I'd like a little bit more information because it feels a little bit arbitrary. It feels like they don't know. I guess what I mean is you got to have the attitude. You got to somehow make me think that you know what you're doing and that you've got it all figured out. And some of those just feel like kind of arbitrary choices.
So I think for me, I feel like in this story, I don't care as much because he's like such a small part of it. But I do feel like that's one of those things where they're like, "Oh, this is a cool little thread we'll leave dangling, and we'll tackle this in a sequel." So I do think it is probably an aspect where they're trying to set something up.
Well, because what it reads more to me like is that's just what he is in the comics, and they haven't really thought through how he got there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there could be, and that's why I was asking earlier if you think there's maybe too many characters in this, and they, instead of giving more time, should have dialed some of them back instead.
Yeah, maybe so.
Because it is a very like world building heavy film.
Yeah.
But also like it's giving you so much that it can't go into it a ton.
Yeah, the world doesn't feel as built as they want it to, and again, it feels like there have to be ideas that were left on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder if there's like like vastly longer cut of this film that exists somewhere, like even beyond, just the deleted scenes that exist on the DVD.
Maybe. I also think that it's likely that a lot of those things were cut out of the shooting script.
Mm-hmm.
Where they had like a script that would have been 4 hours and they knew it, and they just cut a lot out of it before they even started. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess what I was trying to say earlier is you can, either tell us everything. You can stop everything and give us a bunch of the exposition about that, or you can leave it, real vague and, like, give us a sense of history and try to make us buy it. I just feel like this doesn't quite navigate that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got that with other things too. Like I said, I think the why is John smoking question is kind of in that category, where I don't need to stop everything and talk about it a ton. I just something feels a little lingering, a little missing.
Okay. I mean, that's fair. Like, I don't have that as much with the smoking thing, but I can like appreciate where you're coming from. Is this also Houston's first comic book film? Because he's in a ton of superhero stuff.
Yeah, maybe it must be.
And always really small roles. I'm waiting for him to get like a really big, like, beefy role in something.
Okay, well, Chaz at least refers to it as a birth as opposed to just a conduit that Maman is like walking through or something. And and obviously, they're trying to do a cheeky, like evil parallel to Jesus's birth and everything with Jesus. So maybe they think it's just a given that it would be a woman. Maybe there's enough there for that. But that's another thing I was going to put in that category of you didn't quite give me enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think just with what they show, like with it being,
but that one I'll concede. I think that's actually working better than I was.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. I mean, this is also a movie that I think is so just at a clip that it's easy to kind of get lost in what's happening. I do think it has that for better or worse. See, look, Chaz is immediately cooler than Robin because he's got a shotgun.
Yeah, well, Robin's not allowed to have a shotgun.
But you have to admit,
Yeah, he's
Robin
working
with
for
a
Batman.
Shotgun would be a great title for a movie.
I feel like this name is getting way too long. You know, like Robin Shotgun John Blake. Um,
Robin with a Shotgun John Blake.
it's getting a little lengthy here.
Come on, Nolan, dial it back, dude.
Just calm down.
Look, we get it. The logo of your film is hell, okay? You think you're so artistic.
I mean, it's nice that Chaz gets some stuff to do right at the end. Do you agree with me that his death is a little contrived? Where it's like we really want to write him out? Because I think part of the reason I feel that way is just we finally get to see him do something, and we're done with that character now. But also, the thing that kills him, 9 times out of 10, movie characters, whether they're superpowered or not, live through that.
I didn't have that thought, but he is also vaguely young. So at the same time, I'm like, okay.
So here's this character that used to be sleeping with John and was throughout the movie and was gonna be revealed to be a demon.
Yeah, famous actress Michelle Monaghan for 3 seconds.
So I'm gonna assume that there was a reaction that he had to that chick he liked and was having sex with.
That was the big whoa moment. I mean, he's got like a bit of a sad face there when he looks down.
Yeah, but I think they edited it such where you're not supposed to think that that's what he's responding to.
No, I just mean like if you know that, like that. That's what it looks like.
This scene bothers me.
This is the John Wick 4 flamethrower, or not flamethrower, flame rounds thing.
Sure, but can I tell you why this scene bothers me?
Why is that?
Because it's shot to look way too much like, I don't know if this is intentional or not, to look way too much like a third-person shooter.
Oh, okay. I didn't have that at all.
Okay, like just the angle of the camera behind him and the placement of the gun and everything, it looks like I'm watching a PS2 game. What's that?
So many of the shots are in front of him, though.
I know, but the couple that are behind him deeply distract me, and I've had that since the theater.
Fair enough. They should have just done the Doom thing and have it be a first-person scene.
That would have been hilarious.
That'd be great.
There's a scene in John Wick 4 that also has that to me. And it's awesome looking, but the overhead shot in the ceiling.
It's the scene I was saying that the scene is. Yeah, that scene is 100% a video.
That's a video game scene.
Yeah, it becomes a twin stick shooter for a second.
Sheriff, you should use your maiden name, Shotgun.
I love your middle name, With.
Pushing the X, maybe it's an homage, to video games? Maybe.
Possible. Did this have a video game tie-in?
It did.
Okay, because this is like right in the heart of that.
On PS2, and I think it's supposed to be really bad. I own it. I've never played it.
That sounds about right.
So
it probably is a third-person shooter too.
I should stream that. That would be amusing.
That would be funny.
But you see, she was making that same face in the water while possessed.
Well, now she's like... oh yeah, but with what you were saying earlier with Chaz, I didn't think it was convenient that he died. You are right in that most film characters do not die from something like that.
He gets slammed into the floor and the ceiling, and then the floor again, and then he's dead. And in real life, yes, that might kill someone. But people in movies like this live through that all the time.
It's because he's, like I said, he's vaguely young, so he like landed on his soft spot. But
his soft spot.
No, I feel like it's just a place where it's being like a little bit more like cynical, or for lack of a better term, like realistic with it, where it's like his kid sidekick doesn't get to come on the adventures, and then when he does, like this is the reason why he doesn't get to come on the adventures, because you die
because he's just dead.
You're dead.
And again, in the comics, Chaz is not a constant sidekick. He's like a character that comes in and out occasionally and will help John with things, and he's got his own family and his own stuff going on.
Mm.
Film human survival is very inconsistent. That's true.
That's correct.
That's true, but it's very weird to see somebody die of that in a movie. That's better though than Austin than the sheer number of times I've seen a character like suffer some sort of a vague wound and then die, and I've got to roll the movie back to figure out what it was they got killed by. Like that happens all that. I'm like, oh wait, there was supposed to be a knife somewhere that stabbed them? Okay.
It's always a stomach or side shot. Granted, being stabbed or shot in the stomach is like one of the worst places to be stabbed or shot. But
I think it can be hard to convey that because it's so blink you miss it.
Yeah. And we do it a lot where it's that, and like they'll look down and there's blood on their hands, and then they'll die like a little bit later. They'll do more action and then die. Like that's how Caesar dies. That's how M dies in Skyfall.
So I forget where he says it. I think we've already passed it, so I'm just going to bring this point up now, Austin.
Yeah.
John Constantine says something that's just massive hyperbole that makes me laugh.
Mm.
That's just totally factually inaccurate when he says he doesn't want... I mean, it's obvious why you wouldn't want to go to hell, but him specifically, you don't want to go to a prison where you put half the inmates there.
Yeah.
It's hell.
Yeah. I mean,
John Constantine could not have put half the inmates in hell!
No, that's a cool action movie line. That's very, you're not trapped in here with me, I'm trapped in here with you. Well, I flipped it, but you know what I mean.
When I started getting tattoos, my wife tried to get me to get these tattoos.
That'd be a good one. You should get a tattoo of a dead Chaz.
And if not that, she wanted me to get something that was...
You can combine like that?
Yeah, you can combine like that, yeah. And I have tattoos in those places, but they don't combine. So I screwed that up.
You gotta draw over them.
I should have done that.
Yeah.
So do you think it's too callable that Gabriel is behind part of this?
Well, it kind of works on Scooby-Doo logic, where it's been so long since we've seen her that you kind of forget that she exists.
That's true.
So for that aspect, no. But
I think with this little screen time,
I
think with as little screen time as she gets, the movie does a pretty decent job of paying off her motivation here with her sadistic villain plot. Mm-hmm. The idea that she's jealous of human beings for having God's favor, and so she couches it in this notion of like forcing basically the revelations to happen, the like satanic version of the rapture to happen, and then says everyone that survives it, I'll know that now that they're actually worthy of God's love. But the real reason she's doing it is just she's jealous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it's also fun, that it's like a demon movie, but it's actually an angel. It's the villain. Like, that is fun.
Yeah, and again, it works better if I have a better sense of how actually good and altruistic their God is. Mm-hmm. Because I just can't decide.
Yeah, and I feel like God in this is supposed to be altruistic, but it's not like, I have to stop all bad things from happening God at the same time.
Yeah, and so in order for human beings to have free will, you have to have a world that is not fair.
Yeah, exactly.
And maybe it's both. Maybe it's supposed to be both John and Gabriel, like kind of like misreading or misunderstanding God,
Hmm. Yeah, because when John's talking about, the ant thing, like he is also like deeply cynical at the same time.
No, that's true. Maybe I'm sympathizing with him to the point where I'm just taking his word at face value
Hmm.
and not thinking about it as his perspective without seeing the other side of it. I
Hmm.
think I like the choice to show Lucifer but not God.
Yeah. No, I like that too. And I feel like if we had a sequel right after this, we probably would have flipped that. We would have gotten God.
Yeah, and I would have wanted that.
Yeah. Who would you want to play God in this universe?
Well, not Morgan Freeman. That's taken.
Well, yeah,
That
no.
happened.
That is off the table.
It's hard for me not to say. I don't know what actor, but it's hard not to kind of want to see what McFarlane did with it in Spawn, but just done better. Because I kind of like the little old lady god thing
Oh, okay.
that they do in that. Where she seems real slight and unassuming, and
Oh, if we
then
get Betty White as God.
that would have been
Well,
amazing.
that would have been amazing.
Yeah,
Her
that
fighting Peter Stormare Satan would be the greatest cinematic moment in history.
yeah, like I like the idea of maybe it's sort of the obvious ironic thing to do, but I like I the idea of the most powerful being in the universe being in a real unassuming package like that.
Hmm.
We go to children a lot with that sort of thing, and I think going to somebody real frail and elderly is a similar idea, but I kind of like that. It also gives you the sense of like ancient wisdom.
Hmm.
And that's it's funny you say Betty White because that would be sort of like the female version of what Oh God did with George Burns.
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, there was a series of comedies where George Burns plays God as a cigar smoking old man, and the first one's great.
Hmm. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, and George Burns, like Betty White, lived to 100 or got real close.
Hmm.
I can't remember if she made 100 or if she
I
just made
think she was
99.
like just short. I feel like she was like 2 months away.
That may be what happened with George Burns also. I can't remember.
Yeah. No, I think she was like just shy of 100.
John Kelling, what if God was one of us? Just a slob like one of us.
Yeah.
Just a stranger on the bus. Trying to make his way home.
Do 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 do. I don't think I've ever actually listened to that song. I just know Austin Powers where Dr. Evil sings that.
Oh, that's really funny.
I basically know those three lines you said, and then when he just goes do 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 do.
Jim Carrey does it in Bruce Almighty also, speaking of that movie.
Oh, okay. I completely forgot about that. It's been so long since I've seen that.
I like John referring to Lucifer as Lou. That's fun.
Yeah, no, that's fun.
And his performance is just nuts.
Well, yeah, that's why I was.
He's
like,
making some
God,
choices, and
well,
I love it.
because I feel like that's just Peter Stormare. Like he always comes in and does weird things. So it's like, yes, this is beautiful.
He's just a great choice.
And like the weird like tar feet thing is a choice. Like everything about it's really great. I also like that he wears all white. Like he could be God, but isn't.
Yeah, he's just a perversion of everything.
Yeah. I want to see what his tattoos are though, because you can see he's got like the tattoo going up.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I wonder if it's maybe he's just like that's just what his skin under the suit looks like, because there's also a bit of it coming up at the neck, so maybe that's just kind of what he looks like under the suit.
My favorite line reading is coming up when he says, "So you want to take her place so she can go to heaven?"
I love the part where he's like, Done.
Yes, it's awesome. That's right after that.
Yeah.
He's really captivating.
Oh yeah, it's like perfectly understandable why this is like a scene stealing moment that like everybody loves.
Yeah, well, and that also kind of reminds me of one of the Matrix movies with the architect, where he just shows up and takes the movie over. Except this is not as convoluted as that, and he doesn't have pages and pages of dialogue.
Oh yeah, he's like the George Carlin guy in the White Room, right?
Yes. And I like how he makes fun of him because he's not even remotely doing an impression of Keanu Reeves. He's like, "This beer of destiny." I'm like, that's not what he sounds like. Why are you saying it like that?
What a child.
It's awesome. Yeah, such a like manic, bizarre performance.
And then he like roars at him like Dana in Ghostbusters when she's possessed by the dog.
And I've never been able to decide if I just like this on an ironic level or if I think like it's dramatically effective, because like it's kind of intimidating and it's kind of just funny.
I mean, I think it hits like a Nick Cage level, right? Where like I do think it is just genuinely really good, but it's also just very amusing at the same time.
I the Mexican is a name I don't recognize. Welcome. It's inspired by the first of the Fallen from the run of Hellblazer that this is from. Okay, thanks for that. Yeah,
Oh, nice.
I was wondering, like Plushy DX, if this was looking at any particular material for its Satan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because comics are weird, so there's always multiple versions of Satan, both at Marvel and DC.
Yeah, they just all contradict each other. But yeah, I love how like inconsistent his voice is, where he just feels like he's constantly doing impressions of things.
Mm-hmm. I love the little giggle he just did like a second ago when Tilda Swinton's screaming at him.
It's just a guy that really enjoys his job.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, well, and you know why he's wearing white. Because Lucifer's supposed to be a fallen angel, and all the angels wear white. Okay, but Gabriel, what did you think was going to happen?
That her plan would work.
Yeah, this is a thing both with this and just like the Bible that I've never really understood, is how like angels and demons can really like have their own plans and put them into effect without God just stamping them out. Because I get the idea of human beings are supposed to have free will, so God allows bad things to happen, but when it's like celestial beings that aren't part of that, why can't you just stamp that out? And like, you're all knowing and all seeing, so just stop it.
Nah, he's not watching.
But he's God. He's in all places at once. He can't not watch everything.
He was too focused on the baseball game. They're in the playoffs.
We didn't talk much about the visual representation of hell. One idea in this that I always thought was cool and kind of inspired. Not that this made this idea up, but I always like it. That like the world that we live in, and hell, and possibly heaven, though we don't see it and we're not told, are occupying the same space. So hell is basically a parallel dimension before it's anything. And so at first I thought it was kind of odd that you would have like contemporary places that look like they're just perpetually in a atomic bomb drill, which is or drill atomic bomb explosion, which is a really cool idea. But I'm like, Why does it look exactly like the city we're in? Why is it like buildings and cars from now? Oh, it's because it's occupying the same space, and so hell would always look like wherever you were. And so if you die and go to hell, you're actually occupying the same space.
It's oddly enough, like it's kind of the Manhattan thing that was supposed to be the plot of Ghostbusters 3.
Yeah, that's right.
No, I think that's a really cool idea as well. And this director clearly loves like post-apocalypse stuff.
Oh, and you know what? I'm wrong, and I meant to mention this earlier. I forgot about it. We do get a slight glimpse of heaven because as he's going up into the sky, we see Los Angeles in the background, or I'm assuming it's Los Angeles. I think that's supposed to represent it's the same thing as hell.
Yeah, I think so too. But there's like clouds running through the cities.
Yeah. And again, I bet in a sequel we would do some kind of communion thing that allows you to go to heaven instead of hell. I bet we'd do that.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you do it with dogs instead of cats? Like, because, you know,
Well, yeah,
all dogs go to heaven?
Exactly, of course. Duh.
It's right there.
So Don Bluth would just play God.
That's right. You know, this is going to sound awful. I didn't know Don Bluth was still alive.
Yeah, I feel like for like the last like 10 years he's been talking about kickstarting a oh my god, what is that video game that he did, the arcade one where it's like
oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Dragon's Lair.
I feel like he's been talking about kickstarting a Dragon's Lair film for like 10 years now.
Well, I mentioned that because he was announced to be appearing at our local convention in Kansas City this year, Planet Comic Con.
Oh, cool.
And when I saw that announcement, I went, that's cool. I didn't know he was still alive.
I mean, he's getting up there. I
just
Don
haven't
Bluth
heard
a
about
lot.
it in a long time.
That'd be cool to meet him. And he's one of those guys I feel like is very like kind of humble, where like he'll talk about, you know, his faults and like stuff that didn't work in his career.
That's really
well,
cool.
At least from what I've seen.
Yeah, they just announced Christopher Lloyd's going to be at that show. And I don't know if I'm going this year because it's the same weekend as another convention I was going to travel to.
Oh, okay.
And so I don't know if I'm going.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're massively dating this commentary.
I mean, Christopher Lloyd, like, I know it's bad to say, but like, is the type of person where you kind of want to see now while you still can.
Yeah, well, and I've got that Batlet that I've had signed by a bunch of Klingon actors, and he's the last big one.
Okay.
That I've always wanted to get, and I thought I'd have to go to Vegas to do that, and so I didn't think it was ever going to happen, because he used to always go to the Star Trek, or sometimes would go to the Star Trek convention in Vegas, and I had never heard of him being at another show.
Yeah, he comes out here.
I'm
like,
sure he does a decent number, I just
yeah
wasn't keeping up, but yeah. Anyway,
yeah.
This movie. I like her line delivery of "Look how well you're doing."
Well, she's like, I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for your suicidal ways and the literal devil.
I guess she gets a little typecast as like morally ambiguous like guide type characters.
Oh, she absolutely does, especially like in this time, because isn't this the same year as the first Narnia movie?
Oh yeah, I think it is. And then with this,
at least it's close.
And then with this in the ancient one, she's also playing characters that like aren't necessarily gender neutral, but aren't especially effeminate.
Well, and then in the remake of Suspiria, she plays 3 characters, and one of them is a man, which is a little distracting, I thought. But
so originally, the movie was actually supposed to have one more scene after this, which is where the after credits comes from.
Okay.
Where he goes to Chaz's grave and then is visited by his angel form. I don't fully understand how some of that works. I meant to ask you about this earlier too, Austin.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the movie is a little bit inconsistent about the demons stay in hell and angels stay in heaven rule? Because, like, they're supposed to only start crossing over because of the big catalyst with the Spirit of Destiny and everything in this movie. But then you've also got this half-breed idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't fully know how to reconcile that. Like, I don't know how there are even half-breeds if you can't cross between realms. And
that's like a half breed is like a human that goes to heaven and like they become an angel that way. Like maybe that's what half breed is.
but you have characters that I that we get glimpses of that are like angels or demons that are like masquerading as people, or is the idea that they're possessing people? I don't fully understand some of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think some of it is possession. Like they're the ones that can't. But then like Gabriel, we know is a half breed, so that's why she's on Earth.
Like the guy at the liquor store that we get the glimpse of with the wings, that's just supposed to be a representation that I that there's like an angel like possessing that guy or something, or is that another half breed? Like I just don't really know what I'm looking at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not sure. It could just be a possession thing because isn't there a thing with that where like their like eyes are red? Like it's like they're also weird looking too on top of it.
Yeah,
So it's probably a possession thing with that.
I've always hated this voiceover.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I mean, it's not great or anything, but
it's not even bookended. It comes out of nowhere. I don't know why suddenly he's talking to us. And then I've always felt like the like moral lesson that he gives there is not like exactly what I saw happening in the movie. It's like that was your takeaway? Okay.
At least it wasn't Blade Runner. I don't know why he saved me,
like
perhaps in that moment.
Your takeaway was God has a plan for all of us?
Mm-hmm.
I've complained about this in a scripted rewind, so I have a more articulate breakdown about this, but I don't. That's not what I got out of that story.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was more. I don't know. Like he's becoming less cynical and he's believing in God more because he cared enough about a person to make a sacrifice play that had nothing to do with where his soul would go at the end. And his takeaway from that is God has a plan and orchestrated it so that I would get to where and that's and if that's true, that's a real roundabout way to get you out of hell, but okay. Like I would think that particular character being suddenly that trusting of God out of what he's just experienced, unbelievable to me.
Yeah, who knows why mad gods do what they do.
And I also don't even really buy it as a thing that character is doing because like he's just talking to me outside of any sort of context, and it's clearly a slapped on thing to make the movie feel like it's got more of a like clear resolved like point at the end. It just feels real kind of handholdy where it's like, okay, kids, this is what the movie's about.
Do you think that's like a test audience or like a producer thing where they're like, we need something there?
Yeah. No, I really do.
Mm-hmm. That would make sense.
That feels like like an executive producer note.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, like a studio executive note.
If Keanu Reeves isn't talking, no one's laughing. Add a voiceover.
I thought you were gonna say, "I'll blow up a hospital."
I'm gonna blow up heaven. I'm a demon of my word.
One reply: she's typecast in Hollywood movies. Outside of that, she has a wonderful, diverse career. Tilda
That's
Swinton.
true.
She's probably in lots of art house movies I've never bothered with.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, and the fight choreographer is the director of the John Wick movies. That makes sense because he was also that for The Matrix.
Oh, crazy. Because I don't think the action in this is like particularly brilliant or anything.
It's not, but there's also like not a ton.
It's not really about that most of the time.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the action's fine. Like,
which I also appreciate that
Yeah.
this wasn't turned into like a slam bang, you know. There's not a bunch of like hand-to-hand combat for no reason. It'd be a weird movie for that to happen. And
But now I wonder if that shotgun fight in 4 is like an actual reference or just something that was kind of just stewing in his head.
It's probably that.
Probably.
Because Keanu Reeves has always talked about it with the John Wick movies. Like, they've got this kind of laundry list of different ideas that they'd like to incorporate somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And that they'll finally find places to organically get it in story.
Yeah.
And so it's probably that.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I guess we're getting that soon, the John Wick spin-off.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure what month it was supposed to come out.
I think it's like April.
Ballerina.
Yeah.
And 5 was officially announced, was it not?
I think so, and Donnie Yen the other day was like, I'm going to direct a spin-off for my guy.
Oh, wow, really?
That'd be cool, yeah.
I think so, too. I mean, I loved that character.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I'm a little leery of that world getting oversaturated, but
I still gotta watch that show.
if they're good, they're good. Yeah, and I've been scared of it because I heard nothing but terrible things.
Oh, no. That sucks.
Well, I heard nothing about it for the longest time, which already got me a little bit worried.
Mm-hmm.
And then I mentioned it on a stream somewhere, and I was like, have any of you guys seen Continental? Because I've heard nothing at all. And 2 or 3 people popped up and were like, yeah, it's god-awful. I stopped after the first episode.
Weird.
And so, you know, that's just anecdotal. Maybe it's great, but
Yeah. Cause yeah, I was excited that it was a period piece and they got Mel Gibson for it.
So here's that after credits, and yeah, I didn't watch this for the longest time either because we never did these back then.
I still remember being like shocked that there was one at the end of Iron Man where I just let the movie play and was doing something.
Well, you remember one of the earliest examples is a movie that we've actually done here, which is Masters of the Universe.
Oh yeah, that is true. And I mean, I'd never seen that, but yeah. Oh my god.
I remember being a kid and being absolutely shocked by that.
He as an angel looks so weird.
Yeah.
Oh, and then he's gone.
Do you remember what Skeletor says when he comes back at the end of that movie?
No.
He has a line and then they just freeze frame it. It's so hokey.
I do remember that. I remember that they freeze frame.
He just goes, "I'm back." It's awesome.
Okay.
That's
Good
the
for you.
it's the best part of that movie. He's just in a sewer. He's like, "I'm back." I'm like, "Who are you talking to? The audience?"
Yeah.
Just breaking the fourth wall. Okay, I want to apologize to the patrons because once again I just completely spaced Tweetling reviews. I will make sure we do it next time. So if anybody wants to leave one, I will read it next time.
And we have one on Discord.
Oh, great. I will check Patreon because I did go ahead and post right before the show. I just didn't remember it until then. So I'll see if Patreon's got one as well, and then we'll go ahead and do our ratings. So Austin, if you'll go ahead and read that for me, I'd appreciate it.
So John, Subject 879 says, I liked this movie a lot when I was younger. It's pretty fun, even if it's not the closest adaptation. Rating hero.
Thanks, John. I got one on Patreon from Darren Dooley, who's here with us tonight. Thanks, Darren. He says, I think Constantine is a solid, even underrated film, but I'm not sure the studio knew what to do with the concept. I think they thought they did. Make it the Matrix again. It's the sort of thing that should have been made in a post-Batman Begins world. It just feels like they weren't taking it as seriously as they should have. And I think that's a fair point, but I think with their choice to be looser and not adapt very straight from comics, it's actually really nice that it didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, I feel like if it has that, like if it's overly serious and still like this kind of material, I feel like it wouldn't be a cult classic. Like it probably would have just faded away.
Yeah,
It's probably very much its own voice.
It probably would have been really dull. And we've seen a lot of things like that, right? I mean, that's the Legion problem, where, not the TV show, but that crappy movie from like '07 or whenever it was, '09, 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's not 7, it's later than that. I just remember that because I was working at GameStop at the time, and they had an ad for that on loop, and I got so sick of seeing that. And then I saw the movie, and it was awful. But anyway, but we'll do that a lot, right? Where we'll make a thing that's really like self-serious and kind of drab and murky looking, and is acting like it's like again really serious and important, but it'll also be like super safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just kind of bland.
Where it's afraid to try to push any kind of envelopes, and it is real formulaic.
Mm-hmm.
But it has no fun at all, partly because it's trying to prove to you that it's for grown-ups or something.
Yeah. Especially at this point, like in the mid to late 2000s with this kind of material.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad we didn't do that.
And that's what a lot of where they're just all like gritty realism, trying to make you think that you're looking at the world you live in, and like they're never believable anyway, so like that doesn't work. But I feel like a lot of remakes of like cult classic things end up in that sort of situation.
Yeah, if
like that's where you get into your Poltergeist and The Crow and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if 2 ends up getting made, it's going to be really interesting to see how they tackle this so many years later.
Yeah, well, the thing that already makes me leery of it is that apparently Akiva Goldsman's writing it.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Did he work on the script on this one? I know he was a producer.
Let me check. Because I don't actually know what the writing credits are. He does not have a story or screenplay credit.
Oof, okay, yeah, that's scary. Just get the John Wick guy to do it. He was already a fight choreographer on this. I'd rather see that than his Highlander remake.
Oh, I didn't know he was doing that.
Yeah, with Cavill.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yep.
One reply. I love that Cap always takes the opportunity to bring up Legion and talk about how awful it was. It's just the easiest go-to example to me for a thing like this. Because I see.
Count as a superhero film?
What's that?
Does that count as a superhero?
I don't think it does. I might have a vested interest in that in saying that, but I might have a bias.
Because there is weird stuff like the Van Helsing movie. I think counts as a superhero film, and like this does obviously, but this is also connected to a superhero thing. But I don't think Legion. I don't know. I haven't seen it in so long.
Yeah, I don't think it does. Awful. But the reason that leaps to mind when I watch a thing like this is when I see CG wings, I have PTSD for that movie.
When isn't that like they have to like fight the angels? Like the angels are coming down to kill everyone or something. And then Paul Bettany's like, "I'm the good angel. I don't have my wings, but I'm gonna earn them."
Oh, speaking of all of that, do you know what this director did after this for Warner Brothers?
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend.
Yep.
I didn't know if we'd brought that up.
Yeah, because I was gonna mention that earlier when I was saying, like with his vision of hell, like this guy clearly loves post-apocalypse stuff, and he's making a new one as well. But then obviously, like Hunger Games falls into that as well.
And there's some killer cinematography in that movie. Like, I hate where that goes by the middle half, but
Yeah, well, and I was gonna say that too. Is I feel like New York in that film is almost hell in this, just without the smear effect.
sure, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think he's made hit and miss movies, but I think he's a competent workman director.
Yeah, exactly. Like I don't know that the direction is the issue with I Am Legend.
No, I don't think. I certainly don't think so. And I would elevate him even a little bit above a workman director. Like I think he's a guy that has a vision sometimes.
Yeah.
This movie has a pretty distinct look, even if it's a bit derivative of a few things.
No, absolutely.
Okay, Austin, give us your rating, sir.
And
And I gotta bring up your letterbox because I forgot to do that.
I only just added it, so.
And I haven't added mine at all yet. I gotta figure that out. I was running late tonight.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where to put it until now. So
I have no idea where I'm gonna put mine, but I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, what are you rating this movie?
Yeah, so like I said at the beginning, this is a movie I watched once and it didn't really stick with me. And then this time I watched it and really enjoyed it. Not that I didn't like it back then. It was just, I was like, oh, that's good. But I don't really remember anything. This time I really liked it. And I feel like it's probably going to be a movie I go back to. Maybe not like a lot, but like I'll probably rewatch this now and then. It's definitely got issues and flaws, but like that's also, I don't know, it's that kind of cult classic where I feel like you kind of embrace it, warts and all.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I'm gonna give it a superhero.
It's funny we're having kind of opposite reactions, and of course I've seen this a lot more than you have. But in recent years, I've liked this a little bit less every time I've seen it.
No, that's completely fair.
Not that I've completely turned on it or anything, but
this is also much more up my alley too, like this kind of thing.
That's true, but there was a time where I wouldn't have hesitated to say superhero, and I'm back and forth right now between superhero and hero.
I mean, it is definitely between those two.
So you've got it. Sorry, I'm looking at your letterbox, and you have already ranked it.
I already forgot. I put it just over the shadow.
You've got it. Oh, hang on. Did you move it?
No. I have it at 15.
Oh, I thought you just said over the shadow. You've got it just under the shadow.
I have it just over the shadow.
Oh, I see it. Sorry. I was looking at it wrong.
No, you're okay.
Hi, I'm stupid. It's fine.
No, my favorite superhero film of all time is Jumper.
Yeah, I was just looking at it wrong. Sorry, I'm getting kind of out of it here.
You're all good.
I need to rate it. Yeah. It is really tough to decide between hero and superhero right now. But I think I'm gonna be a little tougher tonight. I'm just gonna go hero.
Yeah, well, fair enough. Like I said, it's between the two. Like I can see either rating.
But it's close. I don't know. It just some of the storytelling feels like sloppier the more I see it. And I would like the edges to be like tightened with some of the mythology. But it's always fun to watch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let me see. Where would I put it?
I agree with what you said earlier, where I feel like it's like just like a cut above like a Mark Steven Johnson.
Yeah, and that's why it's hard to go all the way to superhero. I assume I put Daredevil just at hero. If I didn't, I should have.
No, I think we both did.
And I've got it. I should probably mark these at some point. You know, where I can just in notes like figure out what my rating was.
Mhm.
I've got Daredevil at 19. Like, I would even maybe put this. Well, I say maybe. I would definitely put this above Daredevil.
Mhm. Here, let me see. Oh,
You put it right under the shadow. That's kind of about where I want to put it.
well, I put it just above the shadow, but
I'm
yeah,
sorry, I keep saying that. That's
that's okay.
that's what I meant.
But
But
it is like around there.
yeah, I think I still like the shadow better than this movie.
No, that's completely fair.
So it probably will wind up in my 17 spot, and I'll add that here in a little bit. But anyway, Wass, anything else you want to say about this before we move on?
Um, Tomorrow we're gonna get a trailer for the second movie just because we did this.
Well, we're getting the steelbook because we did this.
Hmm. No,
Yeah.
but it's gonna be Double Jeopardy.
Every time Austin and I announce we're talking about a movie, some kind of development happens about it.
Mhm. The weirdest one was that Nick Cage war movie. I think it was like Lord of War, I think. But like that movie's like 20 years old, and then we did a review of that, and then like the next day it was like, oh, there's a sequel to this film coming
That's
out.
right.
It's like,
No, we are friggin'. You said this to me the other day on Facebook. We are gods about this somehow. I don't understand it.
exactly, we work in mysterious ways, and that's what the takeaway you should have from this review.
And I'll segue there to announce our next movie, which we have already mentioned before, so this is not a surprise. But for those of you that have not heard about this, we had a request, and I actually would have to go back and look at the name. I forget who it was, from a super chat winner from a Captain Logan show, who picked Toxic Avenger, and we just got an announcement about that franchise.
Yes, it finally got a distributor. The remake played at a film festival like 2 years ago now. It's got like 92% on Rotten Tomatoes from like all the critics that saw it at that festival. No one picked it up. It's wild.
Yeah, it couldn't get shown.
Yeah. And it's got like an impressive cast. Like Peter Dinklage is the star, Kevin Bacon and Elijah Wood are in it. Like there's also people in that movie. It's really weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. So that'll be interesting to review. We'll have to do how we felt about on that.
Oh, I'm so excited. Superman got knocked down to my second most anticipated film of the year. I can't wait.
This is coming from a guy that put all 4 of those in his top 100.
Great, it's a wonderful franchise. So the fact that like, it played at a festival and people loved it, like I'm excited.
John Kelling says we should rewatch Transformers 1 so Paramount announces a sequel.
Yeah, we'll have to.
Dan's Den, Toxic Avenger will be an interesting one to do a commentary on. Yeah, and that's going to be really awkward on this channel. I am not looking forward to that. I'm curious about it. I'm curious to know if I'll enjoy it more as my sensibilities have changed as I've gotten older, because I am more than twice the age I was when I first saw that, and I've only seen it the one time. I saw it back in high school, and I absolutely detested it, and it's gonna be really weird going back to that.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm so excited. I assume that will be a movie where I'm gushing about it the whole time, and you're like, ugh.
I will try not to ruin it for you, but I also got to do the job. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if it's just taste issue, I'm not going to spend the whole time going, I don't like it when that happens. Like, I'm just saying, like with anything, I'll attempt to judge it on its own terms.
Yeah. I mean, it's a movie where a superhero puts a little person into a clothes dryer. It's a movie specifically made for me. So,
Yeah, but are there little people? That's the real question.
Yeah.
Because if it was specifically made for you, it's got to have little people.
No, there is literally a part where he picks up a little person, puts them in a clothes dryer.
Oh, did you say... Sorry, I heard something about a clothes dryer, but I missed the little person part.
Yeah. No, because every single one has, like, some sort of joke with a little person, and then Peter Dinklage is the Toxic Avenger in the remake. So it's like this really just is a franchise for me.
God, that's so crazy.
Love it.
Well, anyway, thanks as always, everybody, for watching. Really appreciate it. If you would like to support the Rewind Commentary Project and the channel at large, you can become a patron at patreon.com/geekvolution. And at just the $2 tier, you get perks like Geekvolution After Dark and the 89 for 89 commentary project that I'm doing there. That's right, I'm watching Batman 89 more times, and I've done one, so I got 88 left to go, and I should be doing one of those this weekend. Hopefully that works out. And if you want to become a Patreon producer, you can help us choose movies for the show, and we'll get back to letting you guys help us with that soon after Toxic Avenger. We're going to do Watchmen sometime in the not-too-distant future. I don't know if that will be the very next one after Toxic Avenger, or if we'll go ahead and open it up to you guys and then do Watchmen a little bit later. That's more likely what will happen.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the easier one to do.
But we'll let you know. Well, and I also just feel bad that we're already a month into the year and we haven't done a Patreon selected one yet. So
no, exactly. That's what I was thinking.
We should probably let them grab one. But anyway, so we'll do that, and then you can join our Discord, hang out with us on a monthly basis, generally speaking, and you also get your name read at the end of every episode of the Rewind Commentary Project, dramatically by me. And I want to say thanks to all the patrons, but especially these guys, including Breezy Hemi, Darren Dooley, Jesse Surtees, Chewbacca's Lover. I don't know why I'm reading angry. Dr. Hello, Goofster123, Joe Turner, Joe Gira, Super Billy, Vic Apocalypse. I'm talking like I'm dying of cancer because I've smoked too many cigarettes.
Yeah,
Victor.
I was thinking you're doing the, that is true. That is also
that is also true. Abic Stark, Adam March, Damon Begay. Look, what if someone wants something, but I want it more than they do? I want it more, sir. Hot Soup, Invisa Pig, Kareem Roberts, Kate Blaze, Matt Bat 68, Matthew Brody, Michael Martin, and Wendell Jones.
Can I just say in Secret Wars, I hope there's a scene where we cut like into a scene like midway through where Rocket's like, but I want it more, sir. And somebody says, what are you guys talking about? And Rocket goes, hot soup.
Hot soup is just a great thing to say in any context, really. It's just really easy to throw that in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like somebody's like, oh, did you hear I'm having a baby? And you just go, hot soup. You can really just throw it out in any context, really.
God, I'm so freaking tired. Hot soup!
Did you vote today? Hot soup!
I was frozen today!
That is when I yell.
Hot soup. Well, anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And once again, you know, Austin, this did not turn out the way I expected it to. I didn't think we'd have a flip here where you actually like this movie more than I did.
Interesting. So you expected me to not like this film?
I thought you'd... Well, I didn't think you'd straight up, like, not care for it, but I thought you'd be...
like, kind of down on it.
A little more critical, yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
So it's cool that you liked it.
Yeah, no, I had a really good viewing of it today.
My wife adores this movie. She's obsessed with it.
Yeah. I mean, she's got good taste between this and Return of Captain Invincible and her other third favorite film, The Toxic Avenger, as we established last time.
No, and not to get back in it or anything, but it is also better than a lot of the movies of its ilk during that period. But there's not a lot of contest, I guess. Like, it is a better movie than Ghost Rider. No question.
I think that's why it was easier for me to go to superhero, where I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about it in the realm of when it was and like the other movies around it, and I'm like, I do like it a lot more than most of the superhero films coming out at that point.
Is it on par with the Hellboy movies, or are those a step above it?
For me, maybe a step above the first one, and a step below the second.
I think I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Like this would probably make my top 100 if I had a chance. Sorry, not probably. This would make my top 100 if I had gone back to it.
Yeah, and it was on mine. I forget where I put it, but.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, we're going to get going. Thanks again for watching. We sure appreciate you. I was Captain Logan, and this was Austin. The day goes.
Hot soup.
Good night, folks.
See ya.